of somewhere around 30,000 plus.
What? Wow, that's fabulous.
They expected a simple appraisal. Instead, they heard life-changing numbers they never saw coming. Welcome to our channel. Today, we're counting down the most unbelievable Antiques Roadshow moments where owners couldn't believe their antiques were worth fortunes. From sentimental family heirlooms and overlooked collectibles to dazzling jewelry, historic artifacts, and royal treasures, each discovery uncovers a hidden story that changed everything. Subscribe and ring the bell, because the higher we climb, the more unbelievable these appraisals become.
I got it at an auction 2 or 3 years ago. It's all Alaska gold and mammoth ivory, and of course there's some diamonds.
Can I ask you what you paid for it?
I think about $5,700.
From the beginning, this belt buckle was clearly not an ordinary accessory. Purchased at an auction, it immediately stood out because of its combination of unique materials closely connected to Alaska. But what caught the appraiser's attention was not only its bold appearance, but also the amount of gold, the craftsmanship involved, and the story hidden within each detail.
There's 5 troy ounces of gold here, a substantial amount of gold. These nuggets, they're soldered to a base of gold. It's a lot of work and labor.
5 troy ounces of gold was already impressive, but what made the piece even more interesting was the use of natural gold nuggets in the design. Unlike refined gold, these nuggets are directly connected to Alaska's identity and its famous gold mining history. Every detail of the buckle showed that this was not simply a flashy object, but a carefully crafted piece requiring significant work.
I love this part that this is mastodon tusk, could be mammoth. All the elements here, except for the diamonds, are truly from Alaska. Just every way you look, it's got this beautiful little sign of quality.
The combination of Alaskan gold, mammoth or mastodon ivory, and handmade details turned the buckle into a piece filled with local character. Even the design representing Alaska made it feel like a small symbol of the region itself. And its value increased even further because of the impressive centerpiece.
Approximately 5 carats in diamonds in the center.
Probably during the pipeline days, I would think.
Which is what year? Roughly?
The 70s.
The buckle's bold style perfectly reflected the spirit of the 1970s. Large-scale, precious materials, and an eye-catching design. It was not just an accessory, but a combination of natural history, Alaskan culture, and jewelry craftsmanship.
This is so Alaskan that in the right auction, I think something like this could be $20,000 to $40,000.
From an auction purchase worth a few $1,000s, this Alaska belt buckle turned out to be far more valuable than expected. Not only because of the gold or diamonds, but because almost every detail tells a story about nature, exploration history, and the unique spirit of Alaska. Starting today's list is a collection of rings that, at first glance, could easily be mistaken for ordinary pieces of sports memorabilia. But these rings do not represent just one season. They tell the story of more than 2 decades behind one of the greatest dynasties in women's college basketball history. What makes the story even more surprising is that the person who kept them was not the star everyone saw on the court. She was someone working quietly behind the scenes. So how did someone rarely seen in front of the cameras become part of UConn history? And why did the ring she received become something almost impossible to recreate?
I started working for the best coach in the country in 1994, and because of that, I have been along for the ride with his success, and I have 11 national championship rings from the UConn women's basketball program.
That detail from 1994 is where the entire story begins. Just 1 year later, UConn won its first national championship and started a journey that would eventually turn the program into a symbol of dominance in women's college basketball. Individually, each ring already represents an unforgettable season. But when all 11 are placed together, they become a timeline made of gold, stones, and history connecting the eras of Rebecca Lobo, Sue Bird, Diana Taurasi, Maya Moore, and Breanna Stewart. The peak came between 2013 and 2016, when UConn captured 4 consecutive national titles, proving this was not just one great team, but a system capable of creating champions generation after generation. and that is why these rings are not valued like ordinary jewelry. The true importance is provenance. The guest did not buy these rings separately or build a collection piece by piece. She earned them because she was actually there, moving with the program through each historic moment. A single championship ring can already attract collectors, but a complete collection connected to one person, documenting the rise of an entire dynasty, becomes something closer to a small archive than simple memorabilia. According to the guest, only a few people inside UConn had a complete collection like this. So the expert could not simply multiply the value of one ring by 11. The real question was, how do you value something almost impossible to recreate, carrying the entire legacy of UConn's championship history?
And we are all in total agreement that a collection like this is so special and so important. I'd insure it for $100,000, no question about it.
Okay.
I think it could be more valuable in the future as time goes by and people realize what an incredible thing this actually represents.
That insurance value was not just about the championships. It also recognized more than 2 decades of dedication from someone most fans never saw, but who helped support the program behind the scenes. The collection proved that sports history does not only belong to the athletes holding the trophies. The next case begins with a ring whose biggest secret was not hidden in the most obvious place, but in one tiny detail that could easily be overlooked.
And when she passed, she left these 2 items to me in her will, and I remember admiring the ring because that was something that she would always wear when I'd see her Sunday night.
From the beginning, this ring already carried a special kind of value. Not because of a famous name, not because of an appraisal number, but because of the memories connected to the person who once owned it. This was not a piece of jewelry that was purchased and then locked away in a box. It was worn, loved, and became part of the image people remembered about its original owner. But when the expert looked closer, the ring started to reveal another side of its story. At the center was a pearl measuring around 14 millimeters, surrounded by platinum and diamonds set with a pavé technique. This method places small diamonds closely together, creating the effect of a surface covered almost entirely in light. With approximately 6 carats of diamonds, it was clearly a high-quality piece of jewelry. But the most important detail had not yet been revealed, because in high jewelry, precious materials are only one part of the story. The bigger question is, who created it? And the answer was hiding in a tiny mark on the ring. The owner had heard the name Van Cleef and Arpels before, but she never realized the real clue was on the very piece she remembered so clearly.
It is signed. VCA.
Van Cleef and Arpels.
Yeah.
Holy moly, she said something about Van Cleef and Arpels.
Just 3 small letters. VCA. But they completely changed the way this ring was seen. It was no longer simply a beautiful pearl and diamond ring from the 1960s. It became a piece connected to Van Cleef and Arpels, one of the most famous jewelry masons in the world. For collectors, that signature represents craftsmanship, design history, and the standards of a legendary name. That is why the value of this piece was not only measured by platinum, pearl, or diamonds. It was also about who made it. The ring was estimated at around $20,000 to $30,000 at auction, with an insurance replacement value reaching about $60,000. It was Van Cleef and Arpels. And sometimes in the world of antiques, the biggest discovery is not found in the brightest stone. It is hidden in a tiny mark waiting to be noticed. The Paul Store Claret Jugs.
My husband bought them in the early 60s because we liked them. We paid £50 for them, which we thought was rather a lot in those days.
£50?
Yes.
Right, yes.
That is exactly how the story of these claret jugs began. In the early 1960s, the owner's husband bought them simply because they appealed to him. At the time, £50 felt like a considerable amount of money, but they were purchased for enjoyment rather than investment. For decades, they remained cherished household possessions. Then they arrived at Antiques Roadshow.
The condition is absolutely stunning. I mean, everything is as crisp as the day it was made. The glassing is just so sharp.
The first thing that caught the expert's attention was their remarkable condition. The engraved details remained crisp. The glass was beautifully clear. Even the silver showed very little wear, preserving the sharpness and elegance of the original craftsmanship. And there was something else that made them especially desirable. They had survived together.
Finding a pair of claret jugs is unusual. They turn up, but most often you simply find a claret jug.
The vine decorations flowing from the lid to the base perfectly suited their original purpose, but the most important discovery was hidden in the hallmarks.
Well, they're made in London, and we've got a date here of 1838, but the maker, and really could not be better. The maker in this case is Paul Storr.
With those words, the appraisal moved to an entirely different level. Paul Storr is widely regarded as one of the greatest silversmiths in British history, and his work remains highly sought after by collectors around the world.
One of the greatest of the silversmiths that has ever been.
Dated to 1838, preserved in exceptional condition and crafted by one of the finest names in silver, the pair was worth far more than the family had ever imagined.
We should be looking at a value of somewhere around 30,000 plus.
What? Wow, that's fabulous.
More than £30,000 for two pieces originally bought simply because they were admired. But the most touching moment came afterward.
Oh, that's wonderful. Oh, I do wish my husband was here to hear that.
It was a simple remark, yet it perfectly captured the heart of the story, because behind every valuable object is someone who chose to keep it. And in this case, it was proof that the owner's husband had an exceptional eye when he selected what would turn out to be a truly outstanding piece of silver. The French bronze clock.
Why is it so dirty? Do you not look after it?
No, it lives in a box in the attic because it's so ugly.
Really?
Yeah.
Who banished it up there?
My wife.
To this family, the clock was simply an old, dusty object that nobody found particularly attractive. But to the expert, all that dirt was hiding something far more interesting.
Underneath all this filth and mess, we have the most wonderful bronze bull.
The more closely he examined it, the more signs of quality began to emerge. From the finely cast bronze work to the craftsmanship of the movement itself, everything suggested this was far from an ordinary clock. Then came an important discovery.
You're lucky. Look, the original pendulum.
Still there.
Still there.
The original pendulum had survived intact for centuries. For collectors, details like that can make a tremendous difference. When the owner suggested the clock might be worth a few £1,000s, the expert immediately raised expectations.
Even in this state, I think your initial offer would be in the region of 20,000.
20?
£20,000 in the rough like this. You're not going to replace this retail anything under 30 to 35,000.
What had spent years hidden away in an attic box was suddenly revealed as a clock worth tens of thousands of pounds. And the story did not end there. After a professional restoration, the transformation was remarkable.
The moment of truth.
Wow.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you've done great job. That's fantastic.
Wow.
Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah. It really is. No, it's not quite so ugly.
A clock once dismissed as ugly. A French masterpiece nearly 3 centuries old. And one of the most satisfying transformations ever seen on Antique Roadshow. The Jade Imperial Seal.
I brought 2 jade tablets and a jade seal that belonged to my great-great-grandmother. I have been told they are 18th century from China.
The family believed these pieces dated to 18th century China and had been passed down through several generations. Presented to the expert were 2 inscribed jade plaques and a jade seal, topped with a pair of dragons, a motif long associated with power, authority, and the imperial court.
The seal's a symbol of imperial authority.
But a closer examination revealed an important clue carved into the plaques.
Dated here, Guangshi, first year of Guangshi, which is 1875.
That inscription suggested the story might not belong to the 18th century after all. Instead, the objects appeared to be connected to the late Qing dynasty and possibly even to an imperial jade book or court-related commission. At that moment, the value of the collection began to change dramatically.
My mother had them appraised in 2007 for $1,400.
Together as a associated pair, they would carry an auction estimate of $20,000 to $30,000.
Okay, wow.
The two plaques alone were worth far more than the earlier appraisal suggested. But the jade seal was the real star of the evaluation.
And the seal appraised for $1,400 also.
Conservatively, at auction, it would carry an auction estimate of $30,000 to $50,000.
Okay, all right.
Even under a conservative assessment, its value had increased many times over. Yet the expert was not finished. If further research confirmed a strong connection to the Guangxu period, everything could move to an entirely different level.
So it may carry an auction estimate of $300,000 to $500,000.
Oh, is that all? Okay. Well, that's a little bit different than what I was expecting today, but oh my, thank you. That's amazing.
What had once been a collection valued at only a few $1,000s now carried the potential to become an imperial treasure worth as much as $500,000. Not bad for a group of jade pieces that had spent decades quietly sitting in the family. Some belongings travel with a family for decades without anyone ever thinking of them as valuable. This trunk was one of them. It wasn't displayed in a museum, and it wasn't locked away like a luxury collectible. For years, it simply moved with the family from place to place, carrying memories more than anyone imagined it might be carrying value. Few people would have guessed that every time it was loaded onto a ship, packed for another journey, or stored away after another trip, its real story was quietly traveling with it.
It's something I've had since 1966, and it's traveled a lot with my parents. It's been across the ocean 6 times.
When the trunk arrived at Antiques Roadshow, the experts almost immediately realized this was not just an old piece of luggage. It was a Louis Vuitton steamer trunk from a time when the Louis Vuitton name was built around one thing: luxury travel trunks made for wealthy travelers crossing the world in style.
This is a wonderful example of a Louis Vuitton steamer trunk.
The checkered damier canvas pattern was introduced by Louis Vuitton in 1888, long before the famous LV monogram became one of the most recognizable symbols in fashion. And this was where the trunk became even more interesting. The original label was still there. The serial number was still there. The straps, hardware, and identifying details all helped confirm that this was an unusually well-preserved example. What impressed the experts most was not only the brand name, but the condition. After crossing the ocean 6 times and following the family through years of real use, the trunk still survived in remarkably strong shape. Then came the question everyone was waiting for. How much was this old travel trunk actually worth?
If I were to see this come up for auction today, I would feel very comfortable in saying that it would sell for around about $10,000. If we were to insure it, you would need to place an insurance value of $20,000 or more on it.
You made my weekend.
Around $10,000 at auction, and more than $20,000 for insurance purposes. A trunk that had long been treated as nothing more than old family luggage was suddenly worth more than many new cars. And that is what makes this story so satisfying. Sometimes the objects that follow a family through ordinary life are the very ones hiding the biggest surprise. This Louis Vuitton trunk was not just carrying clothes across the ocean. It was carrying a hidden treasure the family had been living with for decades. Some treasures are locked away in vaults. Others are proudly displayed as family heirlooms. And then there are treasures that spend years sitting in a chicken coop. It sounds more like fiction than an Antiques Roadshow appraisal. Yet that's exactly where one of today's most valuable discoveries began.
So I would love to know how you got this. My grandfather was a superintendent of the grounds at an estate in Gloucester, Massachusetts at Eastern Point. And this apparently came from the estate.
The fixture found its way into the family almost by accident. What happened afterward, however, is what makes this story unforgettable. No one realized they were living with something extraordinary. Instead of becoming the centerpiece of a home, it spent decades being moved from one place to another whenever it was in the way.
It was in his chicken coop for years because where do you put a piece like this?
By the time it reached Antiques Roadshow, most people would have expected years of neglect to leave permanent damage. The experts were expecting signs of wear as well. Instead, they found something that immediately captured their attention. Even so, one important question still had to be answered before anyone could identify exactly what they were looking at.
I am amazed that it is in such phenomenal condition.
For stained glass lighting of this caliber, experts usually begin with one simple detail: the maker's signature. Without it, many collectors would hesitate. So what convinced the appraiser that this piece deserved a completely different conclusion?
The type of glass that you see, particularly the background glass, was made at Tiffany. This was probably a custom-made piece for the mansion. Most of the fake Tiffany out there is signed, but there's a tremendous amount of early shades that are not signed.
That conclusion changed everything. The object that had spent years being treated as an oversized family possession was suddenly recognized as an exceptionally rare survivor. And now, there was only one question left. How much could a discovery like this actually be worth?
Something like this in a retail setting could be priced anywhere between $100,000 and $150,000.
Good to know.
From a forgotten fixture that had spent years moving between a chicken coop, an attic, and storage, to a Tiffany masterpiece valued at between $100,000 and $150,000. Stories like this are a reminder that the greatest treasures don't always spend their lives in elegant places. Sometimes they survive for decades, in the last place anyone would ever think to look. Many sports collectibles become valuable because they are connected to a legendary athlete. This medal is different. Its significance comes from the moment it represents. At first glance, it appears to be nothing more than an old Olympic gold medal that has been carefully preserved by a family for generations. But this medal carries the date 1936. Berlin, the first Olympic Games in which basketball was officially included as a medal event, and it was awarded to Uncle Carl, a member of the very first United States basketball team to win Olympic gold.
I brought an Olympic gold medal that was given to Uncle Carl in 1936 at the Olympics in Berlin.
Yes, indeed. That was the first Olympics that they included basketball as a medal event in 1936 in Berlin.
That fact alone elevates this medal far beyond the status of a family keepsake. It belongs to the day basketball first stepped onto the Olympic stage. What makes this story even more fascinating is that Uncle Carl rarely talked about that achievement. He was known as a quiet man. And perhaps part of the reason was the unusual championship game itself.
That was one interesting part of that game, was that it was a low-scoring affair. At 19-8, the USA defeated Canada in the gold medal game, and it was played in a heavy rain.
The final was played on a clay court. Heavy rain poured down throughout the game. The United States defeated Canada by a score of just 19-8. Today, Olympic basketball brings to mind packed arenas, global superstars, and spectacular highlights. But its beginning looked very different, rougher, harder, and in many ways, more remarkable. This medal doesn't simply represent a victory. It represents the very first chapter of Olympic basketball history.
We couldn't find any other examples that have come for sale from this team, being the first basketball team to win a gold medal.
Oh, really?
Based on the rarity. Our opinion at auction for the gold medal, we would expect it to sell for between $25,000 to $35,000 at auction.
Oh, wow.
And we would believe you could insure it for $50,000.
Okay.
No comparable example from that team could be found on the market. That was the moment this medal transformed from a family heirloom into an exceptionally rare piece of sports history. An auction value of $25,000 to $35,000. An insurance value of $50,000. Yet its greatest value may be something no appraisal can measure. It is a surviving piece of the beginning of Olympic basketball, preserved for decades by the family of a man who never felt the need to talk much about his victory. The medal tells that story for him. If someone offered you $200 for an old baseball sitting in your house, there's a good chance you would take the deal without thinking twice. And that almost became the fate of this baseball. It wasn't displayed in a museum. It wasn't locked away in a safe. It wasn't treated like an important piece of sports history. For decades, it was simply an old keepsake that had been sitting quietly in the owner's home. What makes the story even more remarkable is that the owner wasn't a serious collector. He received the baseball when he was around 13 years old and kept it for decades without realizing what he actually had.
1919 World Championship baseball. They were given to me roughly about 38 years ago, I'd say. I must have been about 13 years old. A friend of my mom's gave them to me before he went back to Texas.
At first glance, it looked like nothing more than a signed baseball. But as soon as the expert began examining it, the story took a dramatic turn. This was a 1919 Cincinnati Reds World Series Championship baseball, connected to one of the most famous seasons in baseball history. And the most astonishing part wasn't its age, it was its rarity.
Championship team signed baseballs are very, very collectible. The earlier you go, the rarer they get.
Maybe 20.
How about less than 5? I would put an auction estimate of between $45,000 and $50,000.
Phew. That's a little more than I thought.
Yeah.
Fewer than 5 examples are known to exist. That single fact transformed the baseball from an old family possession into an exceptionally rare historical artifact. Its surface still carried the signatures of the championship team, including some of the most important figures from the 1919 Cincinnati Reds. Even more impressive, many of those signatures remained legible after more than a century. For a baseball from 1919, that is extraordinarily uncommon. Then the conversation ended with a moment that left everyone smiling.
This is by far the best baseball I've ever seen on the roadshow. So
glad I brought some excitement to you, because you brought some excitement to me. My wife almost sold it for $200.
Well, I'm glad she didn't.
From a childhood gift to a valuation of $45,000 to $50,000. And all of it came within a single decision of being sold for just $200. That's what makes stories like this so compelling. Because sometimes the greatest treasures aren't found in famous collections or major auctions. They're sitting quietly inside ordinary homes, waiting for someone to recognize their true value before it's too late. Some collectibles increase in value over time. And then there are pieces that appreciate so dramatically that the numbers almost seem impossible. This case began with 2 silver bracelets purchased by the owner's parents through the Heard Museum in the early 1970s. The original price? Less than $200 each. Decades later, they arrived at Antiques Roadshow and immediately caught the appraiser's attention.
My parents collected jewelry from the Southwest, and these are 2 Charles Loloma pieces that I believe they got in the early 70s through the Heard Museum. And we actually have the receipts. So that it was under $200 per piece.
The moment the name Charles Loloma entered the conversation, everything changed. Loloma is widely regarded as one of the most influential figures in the history of Native American jewelry. But these bracelets came from a much earlier period in his career, and that is exactly what made them so special.
These are by Charles Loloma. He is really the godfather of American Indian jewelry. His influence and his impact on jewelry altogether has just been unprecedented.
For many collectors, early works hold a unique appeal. They tend to be simpler, more authentic, and closer to the artist's original vision. That was one of the reasons the appraiser was so excited by this pair.
The thing that's really exciting about these 2, they're early. But I backpedal to this period, which I like the best. Very innately Hopi, and I just love that.
The owner estimated that the 2 bracelets might be worth around $15,000. That already sounded like an extraordinary return on the original purchase price, but the appraiser was only getting started. Both pieces were signed, retained their original receipts, and came with clear provenance from the Heard Museum.
I would say for the 2 pieces, about $15,000.
Okay. I would venture to say that in today's market, this bracelet alone, probably in the retail marketplace, about $25,000.
Whoa. Can I sit down? Only kidding. Wow.
Yeah.
That was only the first bracelet.
This bracelet,
maybe a little more. Like, why? Because people like turquoise. And it's just a really great example of his restraint and creativity. $28,000.
From under $200 each to $25,000 and $28,000. It was one of the most dramatic value increases in the entire video. But the most remarkable part wasn't just the money. The owner's parents had unknowingly chosen the right artist at the right moment and acquired the right pieces long before the market fully understood just how important Charles Loloma would become. This story begins with a family box. At first glance, there was nothing inside that immediately looked extraordinary. Instead, it contained a collection of small keepsakes that had been passed down through generations, all connected by a single name that most baseball fans today would probably never recognize.
My great-great-uncle, Leslie NUNAMAKER, played professional baseball from 1911 to about 1920 with teams like Boston Red Sox, New York Yankees, St. Louis Browns, and Cleveland Indians.
And this is some of his?
Yes, it is.
What made the collection interesting wasn't one spectacular artifact standing on its own. It was the way the pieces worked together, preserving the life of a player who spent his career during one of the most important eras in early professional baseball. As the expert moved through the photographs, documents, and personal memorabilia, one item slowly emerged as the centerpiece of the entire collection: a championship medal.
And finally, we have a 1912 Boston Red Sox championship medal. And this was awarded to your great-great-uncle. And if we turn it around here, we'll see it's also been engraved with his name.
That was the moment the collection became something much larger than a group of family keepsakes. This wasn't simply an item connected to history. It was an item physically awarded to someone who had participated in that history. And when the expert began discussing how rarely these medals appear, the conversation took another dramatic turn.
I know of a couple in existence. I've never seen one outside of the Hall of Fame or outside of a historical society.
Really?
Now, the players got diamonds in their championship medals. This one, the diamond has been removed. The good news is that that can be replaced.
Sure.
Okay? But this medal can never be replaced.
Wow.
That distinction perfectly captures the difference between material value and historical value. A missing diamond can be replaced. A century-old championship medal with a direct connection to a World Series team cannot. Its survival depends entirely on the fact that someone cared enough to preserve it for more than 100 years. Then came the moment that clearly meant the most to the owner.
No less than $25,000.
Yeah, that's wonderful. It's just great. What's that one worth?
That's probably worth, 20 grand.
$20,000. I got a tear in my eye.
The owner's reaction revealed that this was never just a story about money, because sometimes the most meaningful discovery isn't learning what a family heirloom is worth. It's realizing that a piece of your family's history has been quietly connected to the history of an entire sport all along. Among the thousands of stories featured on Antiques Roadshow, some are unforgettable because of the money. Others stand out because of their history. But the next story is remarkable for an entirely different reason. It begins with an old box of World War II memorabilia, and it ends with a reunion so extraordinary that it almost feels impossible to believe.
So I brought some my dad's World War II memorabilia. He was a Dutch Jedburgh, a special ops soldier, and he jumped with General Gavin of the 82nd Airborne.
Right from the beginning, it was already a fascinating story. A special operations soldier, a wartime parachute mission, a connection to one of the most respected American generals of World War II. But then the owner shared another detail that made everyone listen even more closely.
My dad was walking point, and he spotted a machine gunist in a tree and shot him before the machine gunners had a chance to shoot General Gavin. So General Gavin has always credited my dad with saving his life.
Up to that point, many people might have assumed it was simply a remarkable family story passed down through the generations. Then something happened that no one in the room could have expected. Right there at the Antiques Roadshow event.
I know the story that he saved my grandfather's life, because my grandfather was General Gavin.
The room fell almost completely silent. two families who had never met before suddenly discovered they had been connected by a single moment on a World War II battlefield decades earlier. It was the kind of coincidence that would seem unbelievable if it appeared in a movie.
But the meat of the value of what you brought today is right here in those three wings.
Really?
While everyone was still absorbing that extraordinary reunion, the expert turned his attention to the three cloth wings lying on the table. At first glance, they looked surprisingly ordinary, but their provenance changed everything.
But because they're him, they're a little better than average. You have in the neighborhood of $10,000 worth of cloth insignia right there on that table.
No way.
About $10,000. Not because they were made from precious materials, but because they belonged to the soldier who saved General Gavin's life, and because they became part of one of the most extraordinary reunions ever witnessed on Antiques Roadshow. Sometimes the true value of a historical artifact isn't found in the object itself. It's found in the people, the memories, and the unexpected connections it brings back together many decades later. And at first glance, this ring could look like just another antique sapphire ring. But in the world of antique jewelry, sometimes the greatest value is hidden in the smallest details. A tiny carving, a small mark, a name hidden within the piece. And with this ring, everything started with a final gift left behind by a close friend.
It was left to me from a very dear friend who I'd known for many years, and he passed quite recently. I'd not seen him for nearly 2 years though, and I just got a letter out of the blue saying that I'd been left a load of his things.
At first, this ring did not enter the story as an expensive collector's item. It was a memory from a friend who had passed away, someone who loved art and objects with deeper stories behind them. But when the experts started looking closer, the ring slowly revealed a completely different level of value. The blue stone at the center was not just a sapphire, it was a sapphire intaglio. Instead of adding an image onto the surface, the intaglio technique requires an artist to carve directly into the stone, creating a miniature work of art inside an extremely hard material. And the figure carved into this sapphire was Julius Caesar, one of the most famous names from ancient Rome. But the detail that truly changed everything was not only the carving, it was the maker behind it. A small mark showing two letter C's facing away from each other connected the ring to Castellani, one of the most important jewelry ateliers in 19th century Rome. Castellani became famous for reviving inspiration from ancient Greece and Rome, creating pieces that were not only decorative but also carried history and artistic meaning. That gave this small ring several layers of value. It was a sapphire. It was an intaglio artwork. It carried the image of Julius Caesar. And most importantly, it carried the mark of a jeweler recognized by collectors. Something that first looked like a simple ring was actually holding a story that stretched across centuries.
Because it's not worth £1,000, it's worth £5,000.
Oh my God.
£5,000? But that number was only one part of what made this ring special. For collectors, the value came from Castellani, the intaglio technique, and the connection to ancient inspired art. But for the owner, it was still a final gift from an important friend. That is what makes antique jewelry different. One object can preserve hundreds of years of history while still holding a deeply personal human story. This ring did not capture attention because of its size. It captured attention because of what was hidden inside it. An ancient symbol, the mark of an important artist, and the memory of the person who chose to leave it behind. We've reached the upper half of today's countdown, and at this point the discoveries are becoming increasingly impressive. The next piece is one that seemed to captivate the expert almost from the moment he saw it. Not because of its size, not because of any royal connection, but because of the extraordinary quality of the stone at its center.
What an opal that is. It's perfect.
And that's not the sort of praise experts hand out lightly. This remarkable opal came from Australia and was given to its owner as an 18th birthday present. Like many young people receiving a beautiful piece of jewelry, she simply saw it as a treasured gift from her family. What she didn't realize was that she was holding an exceptional gemstone that would leave even a seasoned specialist struggling to hide his excitement. The longer he examined it, the more impressed he became.
I'm too afraid to wear it because it's just so beautiful.
For opal collectors, everything comes down to color. The finest stones seem almost alive, constantly changing as they catch the light. Blue, green, yellow, orange, red. A shifting display of color that appears and disappears with every movement. It's a quality that very few gemstones can match, and according to the expert, this particular opal possessed nearly everything a collector could hope to find.
It's a very, very vibrant stone indeed. It's a very unusual shape.
The stone was mounted in an arts and crafts design dating to around 1915. More than a century old. Beautifully preserved. And still capable of stopping people in their tracks? Taken together, the age, condition, craftsmanship, and quality of the opal elevated this piece far beyond the category of an ordinary family gift. Then came the valuation.
Would you rather I said £4,000 today?
Very calm. Yes, that would be very good.
Good. All right. Well, there we are then. I'm telling you. I think it's a really, really beautiful opal.
From a valuation of around £700 in the past to approximately £4,000 today. An impressive rise for a pendant that has already survived more than 110 years. And when an expert says a gemstone actually talks to him, you know, some questions are enough to pull viewers closer to the screen the moment they are asked. What is in the box? And in this case, the answer is not jewelry, historical papers, or a rare piece of pottery. Inside the box is a plaster head, real human hair, real human eyelashes, and a fake hand so strange and unsettling that it is almost impossible to look away.
Inside the box, we found this wonderful plaster head with human hair, human eyelashes, and a strangely realistic human hand. What can you tell us about the contents of the box?
I don't know if anyone has heard of Willie Sutton. He was a famous bank robber, well-known bank robber. He was also well known for breaking out of prisons. This was his that he used in an attempted breakout.
Willie Sutton was not only famous for robbing banks, he was also famous for escaping from prison, and the head in this box was not some bizarre decoration. It was part of a failed prison break plan, a dummy head and a dummy hand, placed in a bed to fool the guards into thinking Sutton was still lying there. In this case, provenance is everything. Without the story of the owner's grandfather working at the prison, and without the box and its label, this might only be a creepy plaster head. But once it is connected to Willie Sutton, it becomes a real crime artifact. Hair from the prison barber shop, real eyelashes, a head made inside prison with a hand arranged as if it were gripping the edge of a bedsheet. The more the story unfolds, the creepier the object becomes, because it is not just a prop, it was once part of a real escape attempt.
And after conferring with my colleagues, we were able to give it a very conservative auction estimate of $2,500 to $3,500.
Wow, that's nice. That's very nice. That's surprising.
As far as I know, this is the first head in the box we've had on Roadshow.
$2,500 to $3,500 for the first head in a box on Roadshow. This may be one of the creepiest cases in the entire video, not simply because it is a fake head, but because it was a real fake head used in a real prison escape attempt by a real bank robber. Our next case is a perfect reminder that not every hidden treasure is made of gold, platinum, or diamonds. Sometimes one of the most surprising appraisals begins with a piece of costume jewelry. This necklace had been sitting in the family for years and was believed to have belonged to the owner's grandmother, or possibly even her great-grandmother. According to the family story, they were never wealthy people, so no one ever imagined that this necklace might carry any significant value.
I believe it was my grandma's, maybe my great-grandma's. They were very poor, so they had to work with what they could find.
That doesn't exactly sound like the beginning of a valuable treasure story. But only seconds after seeing the necklace, the expert seemed to know exactly what he was looking at.
It's called a bib necklace. It's a fabulous necklace. It was made in the 1950s, 60s by a company that we used to call Juliana.
This turned out to be a striking example of a Juliana bib necklace, a name that has become highly sought after among costume jewelry collectors. What's especially interesting is that most Juliana pieces were never permanently marked. There were no logos, no hallmarks, and no reliable identifying marks attached to the jewelry itself. For years, collectors weren't even completely certain who had produced many of these pieces.
On the jewelry itself, it's not marked in any way, but they use paper tags, and so the paper tags were lost.
And that's exactly why discoveries like this can be so surprising. What appears to be an ordinary family necklace can actually carry decades of mystery and collector interest. But what truly made this piece stand out wasn't just its history, it was its size.
Oh. They have different sizes of this necklace. This is the gargantuan size.
Really?
In other words, this was the giant version, a spectacular explosion of color featuring layer upon layer of sparkling rhinestones. Green stones, pink aurora borealis stones, bright orange stones, every section seemed to catch the light differently.
And we also have green tourmaline rhinestones. We have pink aurora borealis rhinestones. We have orange rhinestones. You name it, we have it in this necklace.
It's not hard to understand why this necklace immediately became the center of attention during the appraisal, but the biggest surprise was still waiting.
These necklaces routinely sell for between $800 and $1,000.
Oh, go grandma.
From a family costume necklace to a value approaching $1,000. And judging by that reaction, the owner probably wasn't the only person in the room who was surprised by that reveal. The Fabergé flower.
We call it the regimental jewel. The regiment, the Worcestershire Yeomanry, later to become the Queen's Own Worcestershire Hussars, was formed in 1794 to protect these shores against a Napoleonic invasion.
At first glance, it's just a small flower displayed in a clear vase. But from the moment the expert saw it, he knew he was looking at something extraordinary. Known as the regimental jewel, this piece belongs to the Worcestershire Yeomanry. Its story dates back to the Boer War, when soldiers left home to fight overseas. Before they departed, they were given silk pear blossoms to wear on their hats as a reminder of the county they were leaving behind. After the war, the Countess of Dudley commissioned Fabergé to create a permanent version of that flower.
This looks for all the world like a glass vase, and there's a stratagem here that it's filled with water, and this is the meniscus, the top of the water, but in actual fact it isn't. It's a solid block of what is apparently glass, but it's certainly not. It's stone. It's rock crystal. The flowers are made of enameled silver and tiny silver stamens, but in the center there's a dewdrop of diamond.
The closer it was examined, the more remarkable it became. The vase isn't glass at all, but carved rock crystal. The stem is made of gold. The blossoms are crafted from enameled silver. At the center of each flower sits a tiny diamond dewdrop. Even the leaves are carved from Siberian jade. But its true value goes far beyond the precious materials. This isn't simply a Fabergé masterpiece. It serves as a symbol connecting generations of soldiers from the same regiment.
I think it provides that link for all the different ages of soldiers that have soldiered with the regiment and are intending in the future to soldier with the regiment.
I find Fabergé things on the Antiques Roadshow, but nothing of this scale. And I can tell you that the size of the object, the sophistication of the object, the provenance of the object brings it very, very close to only 2 other flower studies in the United Kingdom which are in the Royal Collection. Given what are the qualifications I've already put on this object, it is a towering masterpiece of the goldsmith's art by the most famous goldsmith of the 20th century.
Although he had appraised many Fabergé pieces before, the expert said he had never encountered anything like this on Antiques Roadshow. And then came the moment everyone was waiting for. Can you guess what it was worth?
This is worth £1 million.
Really? It certainly isn't
No.
for sale.
Well, that's the
I'm
rub.
just a custodian.
I know.
But for its owner, this was never something to be sold. It is a piece of regimental history preserved on behalf of those who served in the past and those who will serve in the future. The British Army Silver Centerpiece.
It was presented to the 10th Hussars, Prince of Wales's own, by King George IV on his accession to the throne.
This centerpiece once stood in the officers' mess of the King's Royal Hussars and came with a remarkable connection to both the British Army and the monarchy. That history alone would have made it an important object, but the appraisal took an unexpected turn when the expert began examining the maker's mark.
We've actually got a maker's mark appearing here, and the maker's mark there is PR. Now that is not Paul Storr's mark.
For years, it had been believed that the piece was made by Paul Storr, one of Britain's most celebrated silversmiths. Yet the mark stamped into the silver told a different story.
Rundle, Bridge and Rundle, the Royal Goldsmiths. The maker's mark there is that of Philip Rundell. I would suggest the greatest firm that there has ever been in the history of silver.
Far from reducing its importance, that discovery linked the centerpiece to an even more influential name. Rundell. Bridge and Rundell served as royal goldsmiths and employed many of the finest craftsmen of the Regency era. The piece itself was made of silver gilt, silver covered with a layer of gold, and was designed less as a practical object and more as a statement of prestige and power. Most importantly, it was unique. Commissioned by a king. Presented to one of Britain's most distinguished cavalry regiments. Those details placed it in a category few antiques could ever reach.
And its last valuation, we believe about 10 years ago, had it in the area of £750,000.
Right, 750,000. I would go along with that. It is, after all, a unique piece, commissioned by the king for presentation to one of the greatest of all the regiments.
£750,000 for a piece of silver. But for collectors, its true value lies in something much rarer. A one-of-a-kind object that connects the British monarchy, the military, and more than 2 centuries of history.
You know, on the Antiques Roadshow we see everything, but rarely do I get presented with something that is quite so spectacular as this diamond necklace. It's not just a diamond necklace, it's like a diamond skipping rope.
From the moment this necklace was revealed, the expert knew this was no ordinary piece of diamond jewelry. Its enormous size alone was enough to impress, but the story behind it made the piece even more special. The necklace once belonged to Lady Astor, one of the most famous figures in British history, who later donated this precious piece to the city of Plymouth so future Lady Mayoresses could wear it during important occasions. But its famous former owner was only part of the story. A closer inspection revealed that the necklace itself was also a masterpiece of early 20th century jewelry.
I think that this is a pre-First World War platinum, diamond and sapphire necklace that was bought second-hand. I think this necklace was from a high-class American jeweler.
From platinum, diamonds and sapphires, the necklace carried all the qualities of luxury jewelry created before the First World War. During this era, high-end pieces were not only designed to look spectacular, but also to showcase exceptional craftsmanship. And what surprised the expert even more was that this necklace was not limited to just one form.
That it breaks down into no less than 6 separate components. And this was another feature of jewellery of that period, that you could wear it as one long necklace or break it down into a series of shorter bracelets.
The combination of its complex design, valuable gemstones, and connection to Lady Astor turned it into exactly the kind of piece collectors search for. Because in the world of antique jewelry, provenance can sometimes make an already rare item even more valuable. Then came the final appraisal.
I think it would sell for probably at least £300,000 to £400,000, at least. And I think, bearing in mind that provenance can make a huge difference, this has to be worth for insurance at least £500,000 to £600,000.
More than just a necklace covered in diamonds, Lady Astor's jewelry became a combination of beauty, craftsmanship, and a historic story lasting over a century. The Jade Imperial Seal.
I brought 2 jade tablets and a jade seal that belong to my great-great-grandmother. I have been told they are 18th century from China.
The family believed these pieces dated to 18th century China and had been passed down through several generations. Presented to the expert were 2 inscribed jade plaques and a jade seal, topped with a pair of dragons, a motif long associated with power, authority, and the imperial court.
The seal's a symbol of imperial authority.
But a closer examination revealed an important clue carved into the plaques.
Dated here, Guangzhou, first year of Guangzhou, which is 1875.
That inscription suggested the story might not belong to the 18th century after all. Instead, the objects appeared to be connected to the late Qing dynasty and possibly even to an imperial jade book or court-related commission. At that moment, the value of the collection began to change dramatically.
My mother had them appraised in 2007 for $1,400.
Together as a associated pair, they would carry an auction estimate of 20 to 30,000.
Okay, wow.
The two plaques alone were worth far more than the earlier appraisal suggested. But the jade seal was the real star of the evaluation.
And the seal appraised for $1,400 also.
Conservatively, at auction, it would carry an auction estimate of 30 to 50,000.
Okay, all right.
Even under a conservative assessment, its value had increased many times over. Yet the expert was not finished. If further research confirmed a strong connection to the Guangzhou period, everything could move to an entirely different level.
So it may carry an auction estimate of 300 to 500,000.
Oh, is that all? Okay. Well, that's a little bit different than what I was expecting today, but oh my, thank you. That's amazing.
What had once been a collection valued at only a few $1,000s now carried the potential to become an imperial treasure worth as much as $500,000. Not bad for a group of jade pieces that had spent decades quietly sitting in the family.
This is a unique moment on the Antiques Roadshow. In all the years I've been on the Roadshow, we have never had a Victoria Cross. The highest award for gallantry this country has. Who was this man?
This was my wife's grandfather.
The moment the Victoria Cross appeared, the expert knew this was something truly special. Unlike treasures valued for gold or gemstones, the importance of this medal came from the story behind it. It is Britain's highest military award for gallantry, given only for extraordinary acts of bravery.
He did this during the Battle of Passchendaele. Do you know what he did?
He took charge when he saw that the platoon that he was with were coming under intense machine gun fire. He rushed forward and attacked German machine gun posts.
The story behind the medal takes us back to the Battle of Passchendaele during the First World War. In a dangerous moment, with his unit trapped under heavy machine gun fire, Sergeant James Ockenden stepped forward, took command, and carried out the action that would secure his place in history.
Okay. So this is what the king would have been told. Noticing the right platoon held up by an enemy machine gun which was causing many casualties, he, with absolute disregard for his personal safety, immediately rushed the gun, killed 2 of the gunners and followed and killed the 3rd who was making his escape across no man's land. For that, he is awarded the Victoria Cross.
The official citation explains why the Victoria Cross is considered such an exceptional honor. Each medal represents more than a soldier's achievement. It preserves a moment of courage and a story that continues to be remembered through generations.
You any idea what they might be worth?
Not really. It's something that will never leave the family.
250 to 300,000 pounds.
I didn't think it would be that much.
Easily.
The final valuation revealed just how significant this family heirloom had become. Estimated at between £250,000 and £300,000, the medal carried a value that surprised the family. But beyond the number, the Victoria Cross remained a powerful reminder of bravery, sacrifice, and the story of one man whose actions have been honored for generations. The Imperial Chinese Robe.
There are those moments in your life that you will always remember, and I will always remember standing here, but I'll certainly always remember the first time that I saw this spectacular robe.
Some discoveries stay with an expert forever. This robe was one of them. The family explained that it had been brought back to Britain from Asia by their grandfather many decades ago. Beyond that, very little was known about its history. What truly shocked everyone, however, wasn't where it came from. It was where it had been kept.
It was in the dressing up box.
No. So, did you wear it as a child?
Oh, yes.
For years, generations of children had treated it as a costume. Only during this appraisal did the family discover what they actually owned. The expert quickly dated the robe to around 1,750 and realized it was something exceptionally rare.
So look, 1750, it certainly would be imperial.
This was an imperial Chinese court robe, nearly 275 years old. Its details revealed its status immediately. 5 clawed dragons, flaming pearls, crashing waves, and a richly woven red brocade lining were all symbols associated with the highest levels of the imperial court. Objects like this rarely appear on the open market. In fact, the expert struggled to think of another comparable example outside a major museum collection.
The only other ones I know of this type, you'd have to go to Beijing and you'd have to go to the Palace Museum to see one of these.
There were signs of age. Some of the metallic threads had oxidized, and evidence suggested the hem had been altered at some point in its history. Yet none of that diminished its extraordinary rarity. For the expert, this was the kind of object most people never encounter in an entire career. Then came the valuation.
If that comes up at auction, with the way the market is at the moment, I think that would make £200,000.
Oh.
Oh. Severely.
£200,000 for a robe that had spent decades in a dressing-up box. And in that moment, the owner immediately understood one thing.
Well, we won't put it in the dressing-up box again.
To the family, it was simply a beautiful Celadon charger brought back from Japan many years ago. No one imagined they had been living with a masterpiece created for the Imperial Court of China.
It is a Celadon bowl that was a gift to me from my uncle, who brought it from Japan. This stuff sat in my grandmother's attic for a good many years, and finally he rediscovered it and gave it to me as a Christmas gift to my husband.
The charger remained in the family as a special Christmas gift, and for years that was the end of its story. It was so large that the owner even took a photograph of her cat sitting comfortably inside it. Everyone laughed at the memory, but while the audience enjoyed the story, the appraiser was already focused on something entirely different.
I've actually got a picture of my cat sitting in that bowl at some point or another.
The first is the label on this box.
The first thing he examined was not the charger itself, but the wooden presentation box. That box unlocked the entire mystery. It revealed that this was not a Japanese piece at all, but an imperial Chinese Celadon charger made during the Yongzheng reign. The elegant jade green glaze, the finely molded dragon decoration, and the exceptional firing quality all reflected the extraordinary standards of the imperial kilns at Jingdezhen, where only the finest porcelains were produced for the Qing court.
At auction today, in 2021, I would put perhaps a conservative auction estimate of $80,000 to $120,000.
And it's under my bed all the time.
The final auction estimate came in at $80,000 to $120,000. Only then did the owner realize that an imperial masterpiece had been sitting underneath her bed for years. Number 3 perfectly captures what makes Antiques Roadshow so fascinating. Sometimes the greatest treasures are not displayed in museums or locked away in famous collections. They are quietly waiting to be rediscovered inside someone's own home. Some collections become valuable because of their size. Others are admired because of their rarity. But the next collection carries something even more remarkable: centuries of history, art, and culture engraved directly into every weapon. And the moment the expert saw these pieces, he almost immediately realized he was looking at something extraordinary.
Can you tell me how they came into your possession?
They belong to my dad from his collection. There is around about 500 pieces in his collection.
500 artifacts. A lifetime devoted to collecting. The pieces on the table today represent only a small part of that remarkable collection. According to the expert, the owner's father began collecting at exactly the right time, long before the market truly recognized the value of Asian military antiques.
This one in particular is one of my favorites. It's a South Indian bichua.
Okay.
Bichua translates as scorpion sting.
The first piece immediately caught the expert's attention. Not simply because it was a rare weapon, but because the bronze hilt tells stories drawn from Hindu mythology. At that moment, it became clear that this was far more than a weapon. It was also a work of art.
And up here we have a Qatar. or a katar, and it's a classical Indian weapon, a punch dagger. This example is 17th century, possibly late 16th century.
Wow.
Then came another extraordinary piece, a katar dating from the late 16th or early 17th century. It had already existed long before many modern nations were even founded, but the biggest surprise was still waiting.
It's not a piece to be used in anger.
Okay.
It's a status object or a gift. Must have been made as a special commission for a ruler, a Maharaja.
This was never intended to be an ordinary battlefield weapon. It was commissioned specifically for a Maharaja, a symbol of authority and prestige rather than a tool of combat. That royal provenance immediately placed it in an entirely different category.
He got his investment back right with this piece here, £8,000 to £10,000.
Wow.
The punch dagger, the katar at the top here, a similar one was sold in a German auction a few years ago, approximately £30,000 to £35,000. The one at the front, it's unique. A conservative figure would be 30 to 40,000.
Oh my. Right.
Total value, we're looking at 70 to 80,000 pounds.
It's a powerful reminder that the greatest value isn't always found in one extraordinary object. Sometimes it's found in the vision of a collector who recognized true significance long before the rest of the world did.